Welcome everybody to a brand new episode of Identity Talk for Educators Live, the show for the unsung heroes of education. I'm your host, Sarfo-Mensah, and if this is your first time tuning in to the podcast, I welcome you and I hope that today's episode is one that'll have you coming back for more. And if you're a returning listener or viewer of the podcast, as always, I welcome you back and I hope that today's episode is one that you find informative, enlightening, and as always, insightful. So before we get into that main event, for my people who are on YouTube, please hit the red subscribe button so you can get future notifications on new episodes. If you're listening from Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast, make sure you subscribe there as well. And for my people who have been asking me how to help build this platform, you can do this in 4 ways. If you are on Cash App, you can use the handle $IDTALK4ED, and you can share donation there. If you're on Venmo, you can use the handle @KwameSM. And if you're on PayPal, you can access the page with the URL paypal.me/KwameSM. And for those who have been listening to this podcast from day one and have seen the evolution of this podcast and appreciate the content that you've received from Identity Talk, consider becoming a forum member today. It's our exclusive membership space for the Identity Talk community. And over there, you'll be able to get access to future episodes, access to bonus episodes, some behind the scenes footage that no one else will see, and some other incentives to show our appreciation for your support. And to catch past episodes and future episodes of the podcast, you can go to our main website at identitytalk4educators.com. And finally, for my avid readers, if you're still looking for a book to add to your library, please consider adding my latest book, Learn to Relearn, Supporting Identity in the Culture Affirming Classroom. This is the book that you need right now, given everything that's happening in our global society. And if you're someone that is truly passionate about identity affirming learning, someone who's truly passionate about centering the humanity of our young people, this is the book for you. So please make sure to go to learntorelearn.com to get your copy today. And thank you to those who have already purchased a copy and have recommended it to friends, loved ones, and colleagues. This is going to help continue to spread the word and increase the visibility across other platforms. So I appreciate you all for doing that. All right, y'all. So today, I got a good friend of mine that I'm going to be interviewing. She is an amazing educator. She is someone who has a story that I believe we all need to hear. And she's based where I'm based right now in Zambia. So we see each other quite often, but it's good to have her on this platform to finally share her story and all of the great work she's doing on the ground here in Zambia. So without further ado, I want to bring on my good friend, Andrea Mwalula, to the podcast to share her story. So let's bring Andrea on. Hey now, Andrea.
Hi, Kwame. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. How are you feeling?
I'm good. And thank you for having me here. Appreciate it. And like you said, yeah, we're together here in Zambia. Um, it's good. It's warm now. But yeah, I'm really excited for the podcast and what's to come.
Yes. So, of course, I know your story just being around you, but I'm sure there are a lot of people who are listening or watching today who don't really know your origin and where you're coming from. So I'd love for you to have the opportunity to share that, but also give us some insight on what inspired you to want to even become an educator.
Right. Um, I'm Andrea Mwalula. I was born in Slovenia, former Yugoslavia. Um, so lived 15 years of my life in Slovenia. My dad was one of the first Zambians that went to Yugoslavia before Zambia became independent, right? They got scholarships under Tito, so he did all his uni there and met my mom. And I always said, and the rest is history. They had 4 beautiful children. I'm one of them, but back in Africa now, which is home. So yeah, I'm a proudly Zambian third culture kid, so to speak. Traveled around the world as well a lot, but Africa's in my heart and in my soul. So I'm a proud African independent woman.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And given the fact that you spend time in Slovenia and then, of course, spending time in Zambia, I'm curious to know, and I'm sure our listeners and viewers are curious to know, what was your schooling like in terms of your primary and secondary years? And were there any instances where you were trying to reconcile like who you were and figure that part out given your third culture background?
Mm-hmm. We were very sheltered in Slovenia by my grandmother, who my dad was a student, my mom had to work. And so we spent a lot of time with Granny, who kind of inspired us through her storytelling and stuff like that, and made us proud of who we are. And I think in our younger age, we never really experienced racism, or maybe it was there, but just we were just not aware about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we did start our initial schooling in Slovenia, and then we came to Zambia. We didn't know a word of English, by the way, Kwame. We spoke fluent Slovene, right? So we had to
Mm-hmm.
learn English and went back to Slovenia, and then finally came back to Zambia. And I remember in school, because we didn't know English, I mean, I remember, I'll never forget this because I use this when I do my workshops. I was so proud of this essay that I wrote in class, and the teacher marked it. And when my book came back, it was, you couldn't see anything because there was red everywhere, like all over the place.
Yeah.
And I was so disheartened and hurt, right? Because I was really proud of what I did, but there's all these spelling mistakes and all that, right? And up to now, you'll never see me using red, ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I use black or purple. Isn't it weird, eh? How something like that so many years ago imprints and instills something in you that you carry with you, right? And it's like labeling a child in early years in elementary, and that label stays with this child for the rest of their schooling career. And I guess that's why for me it's really I'm jumping totally in a different direction, but I think that's why for me as a teacher in the classroom, it was really important for me to first of all really build relationships that are based on trust, respect, right? And
Mm-hmm.
ensuring that everybody knows that their voices are valued and everyone has a voice, so use it, right? So traveling a lot as well. We were in Scotland as well. So we went to school in Scotland as well. And it was, the school we went to was a very mixed school. So we had some Italians who became our best friends, and a girl from Uganda. Initially, it was the Scottish accent that we totally couldn't understand. And the first day in school there, the girls were being so friendly to us, and they were asking us these questions. And, I kept on saying, like, pardon, excuse me, what did you say? Like, can you repeat it? And then the Italian girl who became our best friend said to me, yeah, Andrea, I thought you said you know how to speak English, So I'm like looking at her and I'm like, I'm speaking English. I don't know what you're speaking, But then when we came to Africa and we did our O levels here at the convent school. And it was all about the afros, crazy hair and whatever. My dad used to have a hassle combing it in Yugoslavia and stuff. And, your afros all over the place. And the nuns are like, can you comb your hair properly? And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
it is combed properly, like we had a lot of German nuns and Italian nuns and whatever. But yeah, I think my worst experience was actually with the Zambian nuns. Sorry, Zambian nuns that came there after them. Um, I felt that they really hated me, my hair, my looks and
Wow.
chewing and all that, right? That's a little bit about some of the challenges growing up and coming to Zambia, not knowing how to speak any of the local languages was a little bit challenging. Of course, in the end, we ended up learning how to speak English. We still speak Slovene, but my regret is not learning a local language, my dad's language. I can hear more than communicate because I do go a lot to Mpika, which is where he comes from. Yeah, with an
And what
interpreter
province is that in? What province?
in Muchinga. So it's about 12 hours drive from Lusaka, like you're going towards Tanzania.
Okay.
So kind of
All right.
like, yeah, 3/4 of the way to the Tanzanian border.
All right. Got it. But I think that's the same thing I regret, not being able to speak my family's home language. I mean, I understand it. Like when I hear it, I know what people are saying, but I can't respond to it in a way that is proficient. And it is one of the things that still bothers me to this day. But it's not something that deters me from still repping where I'm coming from. So like I'm still going to do that
Yeah,
regardless of what the perceptions people have of me,
yeah,
even when it's hard. So I'm pretty sure that you may experience some of those sentiments when certain people try to question like where you from
yeah,
and things like that.
yeah. I mean, some people here think I'm South African, and I'm like, no. And I'm like, what makes you say that? Oh, because of your accent, and you like saying ne. Like you'll say something ne, and I'm like, yeah, but that's the Slovenian in me, because we
Yeah,
use that expression there as well. But yeah, like you said, like, I mean, it is what it is, right? I do understand more of Bemba. I do have an interpreter when I go into the villages because I do have projects in Mpika. We set up a library in one of the local government schools for 270 primary school children and their communities. So that's where I go with my Twende. Twende, one of my Twende teachers who
yeah,
comes from around that area, right? And she's
yes.
able to interpret for me and whatever. So we're still able to communicate, but I'm very much for promoting and supporting mother tongue in schools. So for me now, if you ask me, well, which is your mother tongue? Well, at that time, obviously it was Slovene because, I was born there. We grew up there. My dad had to learn Slovene because he did all his uni in Slovene anyway, right? So there wasn't that much of an opportunity for us in our early years going into our teens to learn the local language. And now, I speak bits and pieces and whatever. So it's okay. Yeah.
Are you ready to take your commitment to identity affirming education to the next level? Then join the forum, the new and exclusive membership space for the Identity Talk community. With membership tiers starting at $3 a month, you'll get early access to podcast episodes, bonus content, our Qualms Quotes monthly newsletter, and monthly live Q&A sessions. You'll also unlock discounts on workshops and products, engage in community discussions, access exclusive community and networking opportunities, and even business ad roles during episodes if you're a sponsor level member. Whether you're an ally, advocate, co-conspirator, accomplice, or a sponsor, there's a place for you in the forum. So head over to identitytalk4educators.com/pricing plans/list and join the movement today. All right. Oh, that's what's up. Now we're gonna get to Twende in a second, but I do want to give you a chance to just share a bit of your international teaching journey because I mean you've made stops in Cambodia, you were in Tanzania for some time, and then of course here in Zambia and other places as well. So I'd love for you to just kind of share about that because I do believe it provides some perspective as to why you are back here in your home country of Zambia doing what you're doing with Twende. So let's go with that.
Okay. So, did I ever want to be a teacher? No. That was like nowhere near my radar, right?
Really? What did you want to
No,
do instead?
it wasn't. Can you imagine? Thinking about it now, it's like, wow, so surreal. But no, that was never in my radar. I went to uni. I graduated with a bachelor of arts. My major was psychology. My minor was political science, and that was it. I had gone to Uganda after uni, and I was in Uganda for 7 years. Played a lot of golf there, and got into teaching there by accident because this lady golfer um, from Jamaica came to Uganda with her husband, who was British, and she started a school, right? A Montessori school.
Mhm.
And as we were talking, she was like, Andrea, why don't you come and help me? And I'm like, okay, why not? And I went, and I've always loved kids. I mean, that was, I guess maybe because of that, I ended up where I am today, actually. So we'll connect the dots along the journey, right? But I never imagined myself a teacher. I wanted to be an air hostess and all that, and, the whole shebang. So I started in Uganda, and I liked it to a certain extent. When I came back to Zambia, I then joined ISL and was asked if I could open the preschool class. They were just opening a preschool class. So
Mm.
I set up the preschool class for them, right? Yeah, preschool, because then they had a play group. So my journey into international schooling started in Lusaka, Zambia, at the International School of Lusaka. And I have to be thankful to ISL for giving me that push, I should say, really into the international educational platform. So I was there for 3 years, and I had a really great principal, my mentor, role model, Pat Godot. Wherever you are, Pat, love you to bits. She pushed me and said, um, get a teaching certification and then go international because you're awesome, blah blah. And I thought, yeah. So anyway, I enrolled with UNISA and got my teaching certification in early years reception, and then I applied to ECIS at that time and Search Associates,
Mhm.
and went for the recruitment fair. And I remember everyone in Lusaka was like, oh, what if you don't get a job, and where? And, like, you could have just stayed. And, so I'm like, well, that's okay. I'm ready to leave ISL. And if I don't get a job, I'll help my mom with her plant world business. My mom at that time had a really big landscaping herbs business here in Lusaka.
Mhm.
I did go to London, and the first job offer I was offered was in Amsterdam at Search Associates,
Okay.
International School of Amsterdam. And at that time, it was one of the top IB schools, right, in the world. And I'm like, I don't want a job in Europe. I want a job back in Africa, right? And they were really nice because, I told them I was going to ECIS, and they said, okay, we're also going there. We'll wait for you. And, they kept on putting everybody else on hold because they're waiting for my answer. And then I saw, okay, yeah, I was interviewed by a director from Ethiopia,
Okay.
Terry, became a really good friend of mine, and Diane. And Terry was actually leaving Addis and he was going to Cambodia. But I didn't know that when we were being interviewed, right? He just said that there was issues in the school and I had issues coming from my school. So he goes, I don't think you want to go there. And I'm like, I appreciate you being honest with me, right? And then I saw Cambodia and I thought, where's Cambodia? I was looking at the world map and I saw Bali
Ah.
there. And I always wanted to go on holiday to Bali, right? And I thought, oh, let me interview with Cambodia. And so I did. And they appreciated my IBPYP experience and offered me a position, and I accepted it. So that was really, yeah, apart from ISL, going to Southeast Asia to International School of Phnom Penh. I was there for 2 years, and I just felt it was too far from home. We're very close as a family, right?
Mhm.
So when the director was going for the recruitment fair, I said, Terry, here's my CV. If there's any jobs in Africa, PYP coordinatorship position, please pass them along. And yeah, for sure, there was 3. There was one in Angola. I can't remember the other one. And then there was Mombasa, which was becoming a IB whole school at the Aga Khan. And I thought, well, Mombasa by the sea, I love water, Kwame. Like anything near water, I love. And then Kenya is near Zambia. So I thought, yeah, let me go to Mombasa.
There you
So
go.
I went to Mombasa, PYP coordinator, vice principal at the Aga Khan Academy in Mombasa. That was the Aga Khan Academy's first IB World School, right?
Mhm.
And I was there for 5 years. That was a journey of self-discovery as a leader, as an educator, as a leader who is a Black woman, right?
Yes.
And yeah, that was a big eye opener for me, but also made me realize and appreciate who I am, my values and principles, right? I was there for 5 years. The school got authorized. And then I also became an IB workshop leader consultant during that time. And then my mom was diagnosed with cancer. So I actually ended up asking to leave. And I came back to Zambia and spent time with my mom and family. Oh, yeah. And I got a job at the American International School in Lusaka when I came back, right? That was the first time I came to
The first time.
AISL. And I started in kindergarten, I remember, and then I was teaching 4th grade. And I remember one day I got a call, and it was the director of the Aga Khan Educational Services in France.
Mhm.
Nimet, lovely lady, who asked if I'd be interested in helping the Aga Khan School in Dar es Salaam with the IBPYP. And I thought, yes, why not? The thing for me, Kwame, wherever I've been, wherever I've worked in, it was really important for me in my leadership role to ensure
Yeah.
that I empower the local teachers and the local
Mm.
staff. That has always been my first priority. A
I've
lot of the
seen it firsthand.
you, you have a lot of teachers in from Mombasa and also now from Dar es Salaam have gone out there into the international sphere, right? They're working in Dubai, in China, Mauritius, Qatar. Is it Qatar? Yeah, Qatar.
Yep.
So yeah, um, that's my passion, right? Empowering my peers, pushing them along the way, taking them out of their comfort zones, and making them believe in themselves and who they are, right? Um, yeah, so I was here at AISL and then ended up going to Tanzania as early years and elementary principal at the Aga Khan school in Dar es Salaam. And I was there for 4 years as well, passed the authorization in less than 8 months. That was kind of like, because like it was scary. It was like, are you sure you'll do it? And I'm saying to my team, right? Because for me, it's always about teamwork, collaboration. Nothing
Yes.
is, I did it. It's like we did it together, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it was a lot of hard work, but we did. And then after 4 years in Dar es Salaam, I decided that it was time for me to come back home. I felt that, you know how you go home on holiday and whatever, I'd go into schools, I'd pick up my niece from school, I'd look at her homework, and she was in
Yeah.
grade 2, and she would have spelling words for homework like photosynthesis,
Yeah.
human immunodeficiency syndrome. And I'm like looking at her mom and saying, Susie is my sister. Susie, what's this? She goes, yeah, that's why you have to come with me for the parents teachers conferences, because you know what to ask, right? So she always used to drag me along whenever I'd be on holiday here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, you know what? Let me utilize my skills and knowledge and passion, and try and come and help revamp our educational system in Zambia. So I came here. Um, I can't believe it. 10 years ago, I've been here for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
Yeah, 10 years, a full
years.
decade.
Because I came in August 2015. Yeah. So yeah, I came back home and was so excited. And then within the first 1 month, got so disillusioned and heartbroken, because that excitement and thinking that, I've come here, I'm here, how can I help and whatever. And everyone would look at me like, who are you? You haven't really lived here. You don't know anything about Zambia's educational system, blah, blah, blah. I was talking to people in positions of power, people who were decision makers. And I felt I was talking to people from the 18th century. And here I am talking 21st century best teaching and learning, right?
Let me
And I,
stop you there for a second, because you mentioned something that just struck a nerve for me. What's interesting is when you engage with people who are in local government, countrymen, countrywomen, right? You would think, hey, like, we're all Zambians.
yeah,
Even though I haven't lived here in a minute, I'm still the same blood as you. And would they make that same excuse for somebody like an NGO or a consultant that may be of a different hue? You see what I'm saying? I just
yeah,
find it interesting
yeah,
how
exactly.
you
Yeah,
wouldn't make that same argument with somebody who is non-melanated
yeah,
and has no idea about the system, but yet
yeah,
you roll out the red carpet for those individuals.
exactly. We can talk about DIJ like for
Yeah,
forever. It can be
that's a
our
different
next,
conversation, but we'll
but
table that.
it will still come in my conversation because
Sure.
of the challenges of me being a Black woman in leadership positions in international schools in Africa, right?
Come
Yeah.
on.
So, short of going back abroad, my dad and my siblings convinced me to stay. And I started an NGO called Twende Education for All. That's how Twende was born, Kwame, right?
Wow.
And I thought, okay, if I can't collaborate and support the government at that time, I will support the vulnerable, because all our children deserve quality education. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from, what you have or what you don't have. They all
Mm,
deserve quality education. And that's what we lack across Africa, right? It's families that can afford the school fees, that can afford to pay big bucks for the international schools. They'll send their kids there, or they'll send their kids abroad. And you've got the private schools that are also okay, right? But the majority of our families can't afford that. So I started an NGO called Twende Education for All. Will be 10 years in February. Yeah.
yay.
We'll be
Yes.
celebrating 10 years in February. I think that for me is my biggest achievement, because it is not my achievement, but it's the smiles of the children, um, the girls and the women, even the youth, actually, and the change in the lifestyles, their mindsets, whatever. But let me continue my story. So, Twende was born when I decided that I did not want to have a birthday party. And I told my family, I said, let's just get food and whatever, and we'll go and celebrate it in hospital, at the children's hospital, and spend the afternoon with the kids there. And that's what we did. And when talking to the children and the mothers, the caregivers, the kids that went to school said they missed school the most, right?
Mm,
And then I thought, okay, why can't I talk to the administration and see if they can give me a space, and I'll open a learning center so that the children, the admitted children, can continue learning, can continue playing, can continue having a sense of normalcy in their everyday lives, right? And
uh,
that's how Twende was born. So We have 2 learning centers at the biggest government hospital in Zambia.
UTH.
One is UTH, University Teaching Hospital.
Yeah.
So one learning center is at the cancer hospital. We've got a beautiful space that we were given by the hospital. So it's in the children's cancer wards, and we've got our own big spacious room. And the other one is at the children's hospital in the sickle cell hemophilia room. So right now, over 160 plus children are able to continue learning, playing, collaborating, being creative, having dreams while in hospital. That for me is my blessing, right? And I think, when you asked me right at the beginning, how did I get into teaching or whatever? And I told you that was nowhere anywhere near my radar.
Right.
It's funny how the twists in our lives and the experience. And here I am now talking about this, right? Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. So I've got 4 teachers there, 2 at each learning center. And one of our, Janet, who is a cancer survivor, she just finished her O-levels. She's volunteering right now. So yeah, we have Kondwani as well, who is my dogs, but yeah, Kondwani is also volunteering.
Talk for Educators Live podcast is just one piece of the work that we do under Identity Talk Consulting, which we've had since 2019. And since then, we've had the privilege of working with 40 different schools, districts, and organizations across the globe. And we want to continue to add to that number in this new year. So if you are a school, if you're an educator or an organization that's looking to receive professional development and consulting services within any of our pillars, whether it's anti-bias, anti-racist practices, culturally responsive teaching, or identity affirming education, we are the firm for you, and we love to learn more about your needs. When you have a chance, make sure you go to our website at IdentityTalk4Educators.com to learn more about our services and to schedule a discovery call today. We love to hear from you.
They're celebrating with you, that's all. They're celebrating.
Kondwani is doing his 3rd year at university right now, so he'll finish next year. And I met Kondwani when I started Twende, so nearly 10 years ago, right, at the hospital.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And to think that you've been able to sustain this for a full decade. So just to let people know, Andrea has some of the cancer patients come to the Pamoja Learning Hub, which we're going to talk about, and they engage in some learning and they're able to play games there. But then every Friday, you go to the University Teaching Hospital, UTH, to provide learning and engage with some of the cancer patients. And this has been going on for a full decade. And this is without getting a whole lot of financial support from the government and other people, just to provide context for our listeners and viewers.
Yeah. A lot of people ask me, why do I keep on doing what I'm doing, right? And I'm like, well, if I don't do it, who's going to do it?
Exactly.
And I'm doing it, and I'm doing it because I'm passionate about it. I remember when we lost 3 girls in one day, and that's the first time I broke down. I came from the hospital, sat in my sitting room and cried and bawled my eyes out, right? And then my sister and brother were here, and I'm, I was questioning myself, like, okay, so why are you doing this, Andrea? Like, And then my sister and brother said, Andy, look, if it's for 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, for 1 year, those kids are happy. They're smiling, That's why you're doing it. Okay. So don't forget that. It doesn't matter, and then, it kind of changed my perspective, because we're all going to die. We don't know when we're going to die. So, and so let's now connect this to education.
Yes.
This buzzword, inclusive education. But nobody thinks about those children admitted in hospitals, right? I mean, you might have programs in the West, but in Africa, no, we don't, right? So bring that inclusiveness into the hospital. Let those kids also have a sense of normalcy in their everyday lives. They want to learn. They're passionate. I walk in there now. I'm glad now that I'm not full time anymore with the American school. I'm the Oh yeah, did I? So when I came back, I started working at the American school.
Mm-hmm.
I was using my savings, right, initially for Twende, for daily expenses and stuff. And of course, the savings were going down and down and down. And I used to do supply teaching at the American school. And then I'm thinking, oh gosh, where am I going to get money to pay the teachers' salaries or whatever? Sometimes parents will need money for food or medicine and all that, right? And then I was lucky enough, God always answers your prayers. Never, ever lose faith. And I think where I am today, because I have such a big belief that if you're passionate about something, if you're true and you're principled, God will make a way for you.
Mm-hmm.
There will always be a light at the end of the tunnel.
That's right.
So I used to do some subbing at the American school from time to time. And then one day I was like I got the call, send your CV. They were looking for a full-time teacher. And I sent in my CV and I got a job. And the rest is history. So I've been with the American school. I think it's 6 years. Started in grade 4 and then grade 2. My last position was grade 3. I was also the service learning primary team lead. That helped a lot. It helped a lot in terms of making me follow my passion and my dream, but also in terms of sharing my skills and knowledge with the community there, and my passion of community engagement and learning, right?
Yes.
And I'm grateful for that. But from August this year, I'm a consultant for the American school here on community engagement and learning, which really ties in with my passion. And I'm really thankful and happy for that. So I have more opportunities to go to the Twende Learning Center throughout the week, but also Pamoja, like you said, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think all these are a perfect segue into this next question. So you mentioned service learning, and you and I have had many conversations about this off camera, many deep conversations about this. But when we talk about service learning, we're talking about it within the context of Africa and how it looks and what the perception is. And I do believe that when people engage in it, it looks like a saviorism project and it's not a true cultural exchange where we are exchanging funds of knowledge, where we're learning about each other's cultures and seeing each other as co-creators, as collaborators in this project. So I would love for you to just share how you personally define service learning and how it shows up in the work that you do within Twende and the other projects you're engaged in, because I think that's an important conversation.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of my work in Zambia, okay, I have to talk about my educational, I have to bring that in because as a leader, community engagement and service learning has always been way up there on top of my list in terms of creating schools that will embrace local communities, local culture, respect and value and tap into indigenous knowledge systems, the storytelling, our rich African literature, creative arts, dance, music, drama, you name it, right?
Yes.
So that has been always a part of who I am, even in my leadership journey. And I brought that with me wherever I went. I've been happy and to be able to bring that passion as well to the American International School here in Lusaka, and live that passion within our community, especially within my classroom. I think the joy of having students who realize that their voices are heard, their passions are celebrated, and then bringing that across the whole school through our service learning students team and our teachers, right? AISL next year is hosting a Gist. That's a big thing for us, a big achievement. So from the educator perspective now, going into Twende, right? Bringing exactly what you said, Kwame, bringing and developing authentic reciprocal relationships with local communities, schools, and organizations that see themselves as being valued and respected. Stop making assumptions. We need to zip and listen to their stories. Quite often we go with those assumptions, oh, these poor children, like they need school shoes, they need books and whatever. But maybe their mother doesn't have food to cook for dinner and you're giving them school books. The mother's going to sell the books to buy the food to feed her children.
That's
Rightfully
right.
so, right? So really spending time going into the communities and listening to their stories. You need to build a relationship based on trust, mutual respect first. They need to know that you care and you want to learn about them, right? Only then will communities open to you and be receptive, but then also hear what their problems and challenges are and what their needs are. And that way we stop making those assumptions, so that those tokenistic gestures will be eradicated, because it will actually be projects that you're working on collaboratively that the communities have identified, right? And this is where you're moving away from that handouts colonialist mentality. Well, the colonialists made us African depend on them, right?
That's right.
That was their way of suppressing us anyway, right? And to some degree, unfortunately, that has still continued, because whether you like it or not, colonialism is still going on, right?
Very much so.
So really being open to that. And my goal is really to push international schools in Africa to embed authentic community engagement and service learning in their schools, in the community. This is where my consultancy comes in as well. And then, Kwame, quite often I wonder, we have a lot of teachers that are not from Africa, right?
Right.
In some of these positions, you need somebody that knows the culture, can understand the people, can relate to the people.
That's right.
Somebody that can also tell their own story. You cannot tell our African, don't narrate my story, because I can narrate it myself, right?
That's right.
But we don't listen to each other. You can be sitting at the table and you can be an expert in a field, and whatever you say, they're not listening to you. And you can feel the vibe, you know what I mean? I remember I said recently, I'm too old to play those games. I don't play those games anymore because I know who I am.
That's
and
right.
nobody needs to tell me who I am, right? And I'll find my own seat at the table, whether you like it or not, right? So,
yeah, I was just gonna say,
sorry.
I was just gonna say, I believe you've found that table for yourself, and I'm just happy that you've been able to continue to find your way and create these opportunities, not just for yourself to stay connected to the local communities here in Zambia, but for others to be a part of the journey as well. And it actually leads me to one of the closing questions that I have to kind of culminate everything that we've been talking about. So, in thinking about Twende, the work you've been able to do for the past 10 years, and the work that you want to continue doing beyond that, I would love for you to just share what legacy you hope Twende will leave for students, but also the broader educational landscape here in Zambia.
Twende and Pamoja Learning Hub go hand in hand. The Pamoja Learning Hub was started recently with a focus on it being exactly that, a learning hub for parents, for students, for teachers, for leaders, right? And also embracing and implementing play-based learning for 2 to 8-year-olds. Because, I mean, we all know the foundation starts from there, right? From 0 to 7, 8. So let them get the best opportunities where they can thrive. I'm looking at Pamoja Learning Hub as being a center of excellence for young Zambian children that might not necessarily afford the fees, but have corporate sponsorship. Let companies sponsor children to come to the hub and get that quality education, right?
Yeah.
But then also teacher professional development. I mean, we've had like so many meetings, Kwame, where we've talked about how can we build and develop that, right?
We have.
Yeah. And leadership opportunities as well. So for me, my legacy is going to be Andrea Mwalula, the change maker, a phenomenal woman, African woman,
Yes.
who brought quality education to the people nobody ever thought about, not just in Zambia, but across Africa.
That's right.
Yeah. Because it's not just Zambia. Through my consultancy, I'm hoping to tap into other countries in Africa and be able to bring in my vision and belief about the importance of, number one, it's the community engagement and service learning, because it's not just for international schools. It should also be in our local schools, starting right from early years. Our children need to know that you don't need to be rich. You don't need to have lots of money to make a difference to yourself, to somebody else, or to the environment or the world, right? A simple hug, a simple hello, pronouncing and saying somebody's name, right? And not saying, oh, can I call you Andrea? No, call me Bwalia. Bwalia is my middle name after my dad. Yeah. So that's what my legacy is. And I think it's also about being true to yourself, right? Being true to yourself and who you are, and appreciating who you are. And I think as you become wise, I'm not going to say as you grow older, because I don't think I'm old, but as you grow wiser, you through your experiences, right? Your challenges, your successes, your ups and downs, it kind of makes you who you are today. And I am thankful for all that, for everything that has happened in my life, because that's who I am today. And I think our African voices should be heard. I think our African voices should be raised, and they should be respected. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. And you were starting to answer this final question. I'm going to just pose it because this is what I ask everybody to wrap up the podcast. How do you stay true to the teacher in you?
I love that question. Learning never stops, right? Yeah.
Right.
Being open to new ways of doing, new ways of thinking, and not having this set mindset where you think you know it all, because we don't, right? And I think for me, it's also about when you walk into the classroom, you are a community of learners. You being a teacher doesn't make you any better than the students that are standing in front of you, right? And for me, that's really important. It's that relationship and knowing that learning never stops. We just need to be open and receptive to new opportunities, new way of doing, new way of seeing. And yeah, hope that answers your question, Kwame.
No, this is a good answer. I think it's a good answer, and I think it's a great way to wrap things up. But Andrea, I'm so glad we're able to have this conversation. I mean, we talk pretty often, but for others to hear your story and to be able to put a spotlight on Twende and all the other work you're doing, Pamoja Learning Hub, people just need to know what you're doing on the ground, because I do believe that it's something that's transformative, and it could be something that could be happening in other countries across the continent. I truly believe that. And I thank you for taking time to share your journey, your story, and how all that connects together But I do want to make sure you have an opportunity to share with people how they can connect with you on social media, learn more about Twende and the Pamoja Learning Hub. So this is your opportunity to provide that information to our listeners and viewers.
So we do Twende and Pamoja have Facebook pages. I think we talked about earlier on, I don't get funding for what I've been doing for 10 years. I do get some support, and I'm hoping to grow. Like I said, I do have the faith, but we do have Facebook pages, Twende Education for All and Pamoja Children's Learning Hub. And then, of course, there's the LinkedIn, which is really my personal page, but I always update it with Pamoja and Twende. And very soon it will also be updated with looking for consultancy opportunities. So if anybody around Africa or the world needs Andrea Mwalula, I'm here, I'm available, and I'm really ready for that community engagement and service learning, Kwame. Yeah.
I mean, y'all heard it here. I mean, you have somebody that has the international school experience, the leadership experience. She's IB certified, an examiner. She is somebody that has been in the trenches and still is in the trenches. You're not going to find a better candidate for what you need than right here. So please make sure y'all reach out to her. I'll be sure to put all the information she has shared in the episode notes, so you'll be able to learn more about Twende and the Pamoja Learning Hub. And Andrea, thank you again. Thank you again. And for everybody else who is listening and is still on with us, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Identity Talk for Educators Live. And as always, I wish you all good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in the world. We're going to do this again another time.
Thanks,
Peace out,
Kwame.
everybody.
Appreciate
Yeah.
it. And thank you. I had a great time just chatting. Thank you.
Yes.